What was the difference in the experience that you had there and now when you are in India?
The biggest difference I've experienced in terms of inclusion is the awareness. People with different abilities, wherever you are in life, is how people react to you, how people accept you.
Those people are really advanced. If we see that, when they talk about inclusion, they really mean it.
I'm sorry to say this, but I don't expect anything less from the Indian culture.
When we talk about these kind of behaviors, obviously we cannot change people overnight. So what do you think? How early can we start on inclusion?
Inclusion needs to start right at the beginning. I pledge allegiance to the American flag, but I think here it's like Jana Gana Mana.
Basically, when we talk about having a psychologically safe workplaces, when we are having those school spaces, even psychologically safe schools and home. So Dr. Alma, for someone listening out there, what would be that one shift that somebody can make to practice inclusion more consciously?
That one shift, I think, is exactly what you said, conscious.
Hi, welcome to Unmute Yourself, where we have heartfelt conversations which are real, unfiltered, and sometimes unapologetic. Today, I'm going to talk about a very simple but powerful thing, inclusion. Yes, we hear it mostly when we are just doing our policies, programs, merely as a checklist, but rarely as a lived human experience. Globally, 1 billion people, or rather more than that, are living with some kind of a physical challenge, yet inclusion is taken as an exception and not a norm. And this is just not because of lack of infrastructure. This is because of lack of awareness, empathy, and emotional understanding. Today, we are not going to talk about sympathy, but dignity, respect, and a very simple and a basic question. Do people feel seen, heard, and safe? Because inclusion is not a privilege, it's a right. And joining me today for this conversation is someone who just doesn't talk about inclusion, but lives it, leads it, and embodies it every single day. Dr. Alma Chopra. Hi, Dr. Alma. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Hi, Preeti. It's so nice to be here. Thank you for inviting me.
Thank you so much. So, Dr. Alma Chopra is the founder of Almawakening Foundation, and she's the first female life coach who's differently abled. She is also a motivational speaker, DEI Advocate, and she's a nationally recognized voice for raising awareness for inclusion and equal opportunities for differently abled people. Recognized among the most influential women of 2025, she has been honored with International Golden Achievers Award and Dr. Sarojini Naidu Nightingale Award for her impact and advocacy. But beyond titles and recognition, Alma's journey is a reminder that limitation is not defined by potential, but perspective. So without further ado, let's start this conversation. So yes, Dr. Alma, when we talk about inclusion, it is very casually talked about. Okay, let's make inclusive workspaces. But you have lived that experience. So from your point of view, from your perspective and your experiences, what true inclusion really means?
Well, I think inclusion is multifaceted, right? I think we are working on different facets, right? More so the infrastructure, physical aspect. But the one aspect that is often overlooked is the emotional aspect, a mental aspect, where you talk about the mindsets, compassionate, empathy, understanding. People don't really embrace that, right? There's a philosophy, what people don't understand when they exclude something or when they ignore something. Why do they do that? People are not inherently bad. Right?
Yes.
So they ignore, or in this case, they exclude because they don't know how to react. They're afraid, right? So these people this makes people want exclude. So there was a conference that I recently went into, and there was a very nice example. So it was on inclusive education, and the example was if an elephant walked into the room right now, we would all look and stare, right? But caveat, if the room was already full of elephants, we would all be normalized to that situation. So the message is we should make people with different abilities normalize, so to speak, the elephants. That's the only way to normalize the situation. Like you mentioned before the screening, right now, inclusivity is looked at as a checkbox.
Yes.
Right? It's like policies, we made 4 rooms in our hotel inclusive, bathroom stalls, we have handle, but no one looks at the bedside manner, helping people, asking what they need. Is it still uncomfortable? Right? So just like every single child is different, every single person with a different ability is different. Right now, we want to categorize, okay, this is for all differently abled, but there's, I have cerebellar ataxia. You can have another girl with cerebellar ataxia, totally different needs, right? It's based on experiences, it's based on interest, it's based on comfort.
Correct. So, as you rightly put in, that every challenge is a different challenge. Right. The problem here comes is what people have also said and shared is that more than 70% people who face this challenge, they said that this is not because of the infrastructure or the facilities that have been provided. Mostly they face challenges because of the attitude and the behavior. Right. Now, one thing which is coming to my mind here, Dr. Alma, is that when we talk about inclusiveness, it is just limited to, okay, we are making ramps, we are making this inclusive policy, but why are we taking inclusion as an exception? Why are we not taking it as a norm? Okay, fine, there are many types of people, there are different people, right? So that is a challenge. So when you face this kind of a challenge, do you speak up? Do you just give a proper feedback to them? Like, how do you cope? And what would you suggest that if anybody is feeling like that, then what should they do? Because if you just keep everything inside, I think they'll just burst up someday. That anger would come out.
Yeah. So couple of parts in your question. The first part I'll address is right now inclusion, like you said, is physical, building ramps and things like that, and accessibility. But inclusion goes beyond that, right?
Yes.
So, for example, I recently went to a hotel for dinner. And, there were stairs, to get in. There was a nice ramp. But as usual, this ramp was on the side of the building. And it had like a very narrow and weird entrance. And meaning, फिर मैं ramp से ऊपर गई. And I had to wait before they had like their scanning system was in the way. So they have to remove their scanning system. So, it's just an inconvenience for not only the guards, but then on the flip side, how do you think it makes me feel?
Correct.
Right. Number one, I have to wait for the guards. Number two, people keep coming, right? So they keep getting priority access over me, right? So, it's not just about the infrastructure and, our hotel or our building is has access for people in wheelchairs. It's about how you treat us, how you make us feel, the appearance, right? One thing is like restaurants. I'll give an example. Restaurant. You go out for a restaurant, it's all inclusive, right? Chairs, you can remove chairs, wheelchairs go in. So when I go out, now I have to cut my food. I have to ask the waiter to cut my food. And in many restaurants that I've gone to, I haven't faced an issue. But I'm saying that these are things that society needs to be aware of, especially those in the hospitality business.
They have to be aware. Correct. Yeah. That awareness, that thought process has to go into it. That, okay, when they are making something, for example, a simple entrance, a simple ramp is there, then that this thought would go that, okay, people who are on a wheelchair, how are they going to access it? Is it they have to apply their minds there. Okay, fine, will they be able to take a turn? This is a scanning machine. Will they be able to pass through that? So there's a thought. The government needs to think something about that. So maybe someone assigned specifically for this job, maybe that can bring a change. Or have you ever thought of like what can bring a change? We know this is the problem and maybe this is the solution. Just somebody has to think about it. But then
So there is one solution. There's one of many solutions that is going on right now. It's universal design, right? But that will, to implement that, which it is happening, to implement that into older building structures, it's going to take time and maybe a lot of money, right?
Yes.
But aside from that, like a lot of hotels that were built a while ago have now accessible entrances. But the issue is how those entrances make people like myself feel. Very many of those entrances, including in my society, the entrances are grand, with stairs, beautiful stairs, and for people who could walk upstairs. But then the entrance for me and people in wheelchairs, side entrance, side door,
Okay.
I'll tell you an interesting story. I went to a prestigious hotel in Delhi a couple of months ago, and my room was like on the 3rd floor, and my event was in the basement. To access my event, I had to go to the ground floor through the kitchen and then take another elevator. So it's like things like that hotels or restaurants or buildings may be trying, but the idea is, how does it make, it's one thing to say, okay, yeah, we're accessible, but that's not true accessibility.
It's like
feeling is part of accessibility now.
That's very important. That's why when we talk about awareness, it is just not limited to awareness. It is empathy. It is compassion. It is emotional understanding. You need to understand the emotions, what are just being there and which are just the other person is feeling. Right? I think that when we talk about workplaces, Dr. Alma, right? There are DEI practices there which talk of inclusion and everything. But is it just on paper, or actually they put them into practice as well?
I think there are some workplaces that do focus on inclusion and are very advanced in that aspect. I went to a couple of workplaces in Noida, and I was super impressed with their gender neutral bathrooms and their accessibility. But then I think majority of the workplaces, DEI again is just a checkbox. It's like the government has a policy. Is your workplace inclusive? Oh, minute though, I have 100 resumes that I've called, and people with different abilities. And for if you have a slot of like 2% of your population must be differently able.
Yes.
They don't go the extra mile to do, okay, what tools do you need to do your work properly, right? It's more of just a checkbox. They don't really look at the necessity of the person.
Yeah, it is just a checkbox, as we are just talking about checkbox a lot. It's like, okay, these are the to-do things that to have certifications and everything are OCs and all. We just have to have this. That's why, as you said, that yes, ramp is there in the society. But how is it? Like if the staircase is there, it's very grand and nice, but the ramp would be like this. And I'm very proud to say that the society that I'm staying is, the staircase is on the side. Actually, there is no staircase at all. The ramp has been made like this, right? So from the corners, you can access the stairs, and the building entrance, it is only the ramps.
Oh, that's nice.
So very nice.
So must be a newer society.
It's a newer society comparatively. But yes, so I think that changed. So the designer was an international one. So maybe that thought process came from there, because those people are really advanced. If you see that, when they talk about inclusion, they really mean it. And it is not like, okay, fine, we just have to take it. It's like they really think about it. Okay, fine, this needs to be done. So it has to be comfortable and accessible for everybody. So everybody should feel good when they are going to work, or if they have to step out of their home, their places or offices, they should not feel, okay, then I have to go down to the basement, again those ramp, those stairs. So that challenge should not be coming.
Right.
That's the place. Dr. Alma, you have lived most of your life abroad, like out of India, right? And would you want to share what was the difference in the experience that you had there and now when you are in India?
So the experience that the biggest difference I've experienced in terms of inclusion is the awareness. So it's coming back to my lived experience and why I started this NGO. It's because I realized early on it's not just about really about physical infrastructure. The biggest thing that impacts people with different abilities, wherever you are in life, is how people react to you, how people accept you. And this is not to say that healthcare or jobs is not important. That is important. But what's the point of having an A+ job when you're treated like, excuse my language, but shit, if you're not given respect, if you're not given the tools needed to speak, if you're always yelled at because you can't perform at your job because you don't have the tools, so I realized, fine, there are many NGOs and even the government working on infrastructure, making things physically accessible, buildings with ramps and elevators. But what we have to do in parallel is we have to cultivate an understanding within the society, whether it's through media, whether it's through lectures, whether it's, through schools, but to cultivate that, hey, we're all different and we need to accept one another, right? I have different ability. It doesn't make me dumber. It doesn't make me less experienced. It doesn't make me less capable. It just makes me different. Yeah. A woman who's pregnant, it doesn't make her less capable. It just makes her a different person, right? So my thinking is that at a certain point in life, everyone becomes disabled. But in India, it's kind of a catch-22, because if I say that, if you go ahead and say that to someone, they get offended, right? But then on the flip side, you're saying that to me every single day, right? And then if I take it one step further, if you allow me, Preeti, just look at the word disabled. How's it constructed? Exactly. You have the word this in front of it. Think about it. What words have the word this in front of it? It lessens the meaning of the word, right? To mean, demoralizes to mean something, right? So when you call that to a person or group of people, what do you think it does to us? Unconsciously or consciously.
Exactly. As you correctly mentioned, we all are differently abled. So it's when we say these are differently abled people, we all are differently abled. Yeah. Right? It is just not restricted to your physical being. It is to your mental being also. Someone could be really bad and messed up mentally, but still, because you are looking good physically, people are like, okay, this is normal and this is a differently abled person. Yeah. This is a different person. Yeah. So I think that that biases, there are conscious sometimes, there are unconscious sometimes. Yeah. Right. And there have been instances where people must have said something which was not intentional, but it actually impacted you deeply. So would it be okay if you can share such an incident?
I think this happens on a daily basis, when you're slighted unintentionally, when people, recently I was in a workshop, if you want to say, and it was a circle, everyone was standing up and, dancing in a circle, holding hands. And obviously I can hardly stand myself, and then I obviously can't go round and round, right? So they made a circle and I was pushed to the wall. No one kicked me or anything, but I was pushed, just because they needed more space. And it just made me feel, because no one looked at me, no one asked me if I wanted to join. I could have, sat in the center of the circle. So many things to make me feel included. But I'm sorry to say this, but I don't expect anything less from the Indian culture. Even anywhere I am in the world, this is what I expect. It's sad when we have such low expectations of people's empathy and understanding. It's just sad. It means, if I have such a low expectations, I knew this was going to happen. There are so many ways they could have included
many ways,
right? But no, it's it means our understanding, our commitment, our acceptance, it's not there yet, unfortunately.
We have a long way to go as a society, and we are so proud of Indian culture. But when these things happen, I think we just need to take a pause and look again. How are we making the other person feel?
Yeah.
So again, we are coming back to how are we treating each other as a human? On a human level, how are we talking to each other? The language we are using, silent or the spoken one, both.
Yes.
When we talk about these kind of behaviors, obviously we cannot change people overnight. So what do you think? How early can we start on inclusion? Or if not inclusion, that what exclusion feels like? How early we can start it? Maybe early childhood, in school, some programs.
I think this is a great question. And I think inclusion needs to start right at the beginning. Mm-hmm. Now we come in at the 20s and we talk about DEI and inclusion and workplaces, this and acceptance. It's a little bit too late, because if we're looking to cultivate a society that is more empathetic and understanding, this is required to do at an early level to build that foundation. Now, for example, we talked about inclusive education when I recently went to a workshop. So to build this understanding of diversity, of inclusion, you need certain building blocks. And what are those building blocks? Those building blocks are acceptance. Those building blocks are self-love. Those building blocks are respect, their dignity, right? Now, if you don't teach a child these steps and say, no, you have to include that person because even though they look different and they may not have an intellect like yours, you have to include them because they're in the same class as you. That's not inclusion.
No, that's not.
Inclusion really needs an understanding, which we have failed to grasp. And that understanding comes with saying for me, it was I pledge allegiance to the American flag. But I think here it's like, Jana Gana Mana, right? Things like that invoke patriotism and invoke respect, right? When a child comes to class, like you said before we started, employees are most stressed, or even children are most stressed when they first get to school. How do you change that? By making school or work a little more peaceful. Introduce meditation, introduce nervous system relaxers, which just makes a person more calm and feel more comfortable.
True.
Right? And a workspace that improves productivity, in the school space that improves focus.
Yeah. So basically, when we talk about having a psychologically safe workplaces, when we are having those school spaces, even psychologically safe schools and home, so that whoever the child is, or when they grow up, the adults, they are not scared to speak up what they are feeling. So when we talk about safe spaces, so that I'm not holding on to anything. If I am differently abled, if I'm facing a challenge coming through a door or something, maybe when I'm talking in that circle time or to my teacher, I can tell her that it is too small. From a child's point of view, he will not say, I felt bad when I was coming through it. He will say, ma'am, the door was too small. I was not able to fit in. But they need to speak up.
Yes.
I think because childhood is the foundation when they actually gain that kind of a confidence in themselves, that self-love. It comes from childhood. So you suggest that it should be started from the school itself.
Yes, it definitely should be started from the school.
The onus lies to parents. The parents also need to be responsible here when they are teaching such things to their children.
Yes, they definitely need to be responsible. But when you look at it, where I grew up in the US, so I'll give my example. I spent 8 hours a day in school, all right, from an early age. So that's a bulk of my day, right? So I recently did a talk with a foundation on the 21st century educator. The educator needs to understand that times have changed. Like when I was growing up, when you were growing up, it was more like authoritarianism.
Authoritarianism, yes.
Apne seeking it, aapko marks nahi milega. And
correct.
Now it has to be, because even this generation, Gen Z, they're very intelligent kids. And but what they do, they turn away from authority.
Yes.
So nowadays, the educator, they have a role that's more than just teaching mathematics. It's more,
yes.
it's not a babysitter, but it's more like a facilitator. So their minds,
Yes. Yes.
Shaping their minds.
It's very important because it's a dual responsibility. Gen Z, as you said, is very smart. We often say Gen Z does not listen, they don't do, we have had our hardships. There are challenges with the Gen Z. We were blessed that we grew up with a childhood where there were no mobile phones.
Yes.
Right? So they have their own challenges, but they are growing up very nicely and beautifully. The only thing is we need to give them the proper direction. And the way we bring up kids, so the onus lies with parents as much as to the teachers. I think with parents more, because the kids actually look up to their parents, how they are behaving. And when we talk about inclusion also, maybe the kids are actually watching their parents, that how their parents are behaving towards everyone around them, and they might pick it up from there.
Yeah, I think it's a total culture shift.
That's a culture shift.
Yeah.
Correct. So, Dr. Alma, for someone listening out there, what would be that one shift that somebody can make to practice inclusion more consciously?
I think that one shift, I think, is exactly what you said, conscious. So if you can make your actions more conscious, whether it's talking, whether it's behaving, I think that makes all the difference. How to include others starts with how you feel about yourself, right? How do you include yourself? You speak to others. Starts with how you speak to yourself. So this is why I want to come back to self-love, right? You don't just talk about inclusion and talk about diversity. First, you implement these things on yourself, right? Oh, look, I'm wearing a shirt from China and pants from India and shoes from Japan and earrings from America. You're walking an example of diversity. People don't understand that. Monday, I have American food. Tuesday, Chinese.
Yes.
Wednesday, Japanese.
So true.
Thursday, Mexican. No one understands that. So when you understand and can embrace and diversity that surrounds you, that actually enhances your life, only then can you understand that, okay, different people from different walks of life, from different experiences can enhance my life, right? And then we want to have a psychology of, okay, they're different, so we're going to exclude.
Wow, that's a beautiful example that yes, the clothes we wear, the food that we eat, actually that's a very diversified thing. Even the OTT channels.
Yeah.
We all are watching different shows, be it from India, be it from Korea, be it from US. And so it is in our life 24/7. Yet when we talk about having inclusive workplaces, it is just limited to policies and programs.
Yes.
Right? Despite all the challenges that you have faced till now, what actually gives you hope to keep going and talking and spreading awareness about inclusion and equal opportunities?
My hope lies in the fact that 10 years ago, there was no talk of DEI in India. 10 years ago, when I used to walk on the streets, people used to look at me like I was an alien. Now it's a little bit different, right? You see people with different abilities coming out, which I'm very happy to say, they're being more visible, they're being more vocal. I should say. So that is one thing that gives me hope. However, I also am very taken aback. Like there's our Disabilities Rights Act, and we talked about checkboxes. Coming back to that, it's still a checkbox, right? 80% of that has not been implemented. And the reason it hasn't been implemented, Preeti, is not because we can't follow directions. It's because the awareness is not there. Now, I've been to many seminars talking about policies, reform, and till date, whenever I've been to a seminar, the people sitting up there from the ministry, not one person is differently abled. What do you think that means? It's about enforcement. It's not about we're making this for you, with you, but we're making this for you. It's best for you. Just eat it.
Yeah, it's a mandate. Okay, fine, it's a mandate.
Yeah, exactly.
The mindset still needs to be worked upon when we talk like that. And research also shows that inclusive workplaces have better performances. The confidences of the people working there, the well-being level is better. The productivity goes up. Still, when we talk about and we come back to inclusion, it takes a long time to go from intention to action.
Yes.
Right? Because of the lack of awareness. So when we talk about it, it is not about the infrastructure. Inclusion does not begin with infrastructure. It begins with awareness, with empathy. It begins with how we are talking to each other, the people around us, the language that we are using, because people don't need to be fixed. They need understanding. People don't need labels. They need belongingness. And that is what it all comes to, because inclusion has to be a way of being and not a rule. So as we said, inclusion has to be the mindset, not a mandate. And I think once this comes, the transformation is actually visible not only in the system, but in the lives of people around us, 360 degree, right? That would be all.
Yeah.
So that would be all for today's episode. Thank you so much, Dr. Alma, for being here with us.
Thank you.
Thank you. And thank you. Till next episode, stay real, unmute yourself for what matters most to you. Thank you. Bye-bye.